Hello and welcome to today's second video where we're going to cover patch 13.1b now that the LEC is done and over with for the winter split. I hope that they don't return to 13.1b in 2 weeks. You'd like to think they wouldn't, but the fact that the LPL has stayed on 13.1a all the way until mid last week, I think anything's possible with these regions and who runs how the patches go when it comes to pro play. Patch 13.1b did not have nearly as many games as 1a. I started with this patch to determine the percentage of games because last patch I did talk about how I felt it was more Eastern leaning because of all the LPL games, and that was true. So because of that, 13.1b is more Western leaning and there aren't as many games. Already LCK, LCS are on 13.3, LPL are on 13.3. So 100 total games were on this patch. 40 by the LEC, 35 by the LCS, and the LCK with 25. So with that in mind, we literally have, only a few matchups that actually meet the threshold. I cited some matchups we saw the most in each role, but they don't meet the 10 to go into detail. Top lane, everything indicates Sante once more. We have Gnar, Gwen, and Sion. The Sion coming towards the end of 13.1a. The Sion actually between 1A and 1B having a very strong win rate against Kate Sante, if I recall. We saw Gnar and Gwen commonly into them last time. I think Gnar versus Kate Sante might have been the most common matchup on 13.1a. In the jungle, not much really changed. Wukong Sejuani being the most common, along with Maokai Sejuani, Maokai being must ban or first pick. It is the strongest pick, followed by Sejuani and Elise. Elise actually not being on here because Elise became so strong it was getting banned, and everyone just decided to leave Sejuani up. So Wukong and Sejuani played 11 times. Sejuani winning 9 of those, going 9-2. I don't believe it was 8-3. I believe 9-2 is how this came to. Maybe 8-3. It makes more sense actually at 82%. So Sejuani 8-3. Obviously not a huge sample size, but it's lopsided. Maokai Sejuani, Maokai winning 7-5 so far. That was similar to how it was last year. I mean, not last year, but last patch. But obviously over a larger sample. That sample, I think, was 60 matchups. Wukong and Vi 10 times. Vi won 9 out of the 10 games. And this was how it was on 13.1a in the beginning. And then the LPL kind of, evened things out. The Wukongs being better in the LPL than in other regions in the West, and it allowed, I think Vi ended up with like a 54 to 60% win rate. It might have been even higher, honestly. It was this crazy. It was like 80-90% before all the LPL games really took over on 13.1a. But in the West, Vi has a much stronger time into Wukong, obviously, and I said this every time, so I guess I didn't say it at the beginning of this one. If you're new here, all of these stats I know are in a vacuum. I know there are infinite amount of variables as to why a matchup goes the way that it does. I just look at it this way for fun. I think it's interesting at the end of the split. Some matchups have over 100 samples to look at, and I like to think we can make some inferences based off of that many pro play matchups. So that's kind of how this goes. 10 times we saw Vi into Sejuani winning 60% of them. So hierarchy, Maokai, Elise, Sejuani, Vi. That's kind of the way it looked, and then Wukong after that. Mid lane, it was what do you want to pick into Azir? Victor, Silas, Akali, 8-5 and 8-7 and 5. After that, it's a bunch of different matchups. So pretty typical. Azir being first pick, especially in the LEC, makes a lot of sense. LCK and LCS. Bot lane, we only had one matchup over 5 times, and it was Zeri into Lucian. We saw it 21 times. So 21% of the matchups were Zeri Lucian on 13.1b. Zeri coming out ahead 57% of the time. So that's pretty close. I'd like to think that anything in the 50s or 40s, I mean, with such a small sample, I think over time it could go either way or at least even out. But usually some people think it's heavily favored one way or the other way, and I think it's still within the possibility of coin flip territory. A lot to do with the support with that matchup, whether you get Lulu, Nami, or Yumi. After that, 5 times we saw Caitlyn into Ezreal and Draven into Lucian. So Zeri's banned. People pick Lucian. They pick Draven into it. Some people, if Caitlyn was up, people picked Ezreal Karma into Caitlyn Lux. We see that at the support. The only matchup, so there are only 2 matchups that occurred 5 times or more at support. So Karma Lux 5 times. And then 21 times Lulu Nami. Looking at Lucian Zeri in that situation. Obviously, sometimes the Nami gets stolen. Sometimes people went with Sivir Lulu or Aphelios Lulu. So it's not all within the Lucian, the Lucian Zeri box. We saw Sivir Nami by a team. We saw Ezreal Nami by a team. So we have to keep that in mind. Normally it's Lucian Nami, but sometimes it changes. And Lulu actually won 62%, which is different than 13-1A. 13-1A, it was heavily Nami favored, if I recall correctly. Nami favored into the Lulu, Lulu into Yumi, Yumi into Nami. That's the triad of how that worked. A lot of people thought, oh, Zeri, Yumi isn't as good into Lucian Nami. Like, oh, Zeri's not as good into Lucian Nami. It's like, no, Zeri, Yumi is. And we knew Yumi was OP, but actually Lulu had the edge over Yumi. It's a weird rock, paper, scissors situation going on there. Outside of that, though, the support role, all over the place. I did not write it down again. I did this last time. Damn it. I think there were like 26 different supports picked. I want to say like 19 different top laners. Not a ton of junglers, not a ton of bot laners. Mid might have been around high teens as well. Forgot to write it down, and I don't edit content, so I don't like editing content. So, and if it was in the middle, start of the video, I probably would close it out, but we're towards the end now. A lot of people have checked out already mentally. I appreciate those that have stuck around to the end. I know the video wasn't long, but I still appreciate those that, you know, like the content enough to sit through it. A lot of people like to state their opinions on my content and not watch it. You know, they'll criticize this or that, but actually not know my opinion, but yet want me to know theirs. I think it's odd. Like, I don't think my opinion is better than somebody else's. I just think that when you criticize or make inferences based on somebody's opinion when you could easily find it out and then choose not to and make your opinion known, it's really fishy. It like makes me think of like they have a power complex or something where they think their opinion matters so much that they don't have to listen to someone else's before making inference on their opinion. Of course, I mean making an inference on their result of their thought process. I think it's pretty ridiculous. So for those that stuck to the end, that's a little tidbit of into my mind and how I'm viewing things right now. So like the video if you like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube member, and thank you for watching.